we're looking forward to Capcom Cup this year.
Yes,
and there are so many storylines, so many players trying to make their mark on the scene in this potentially final Capcom Cup for Street Fighter V. So let's go ahead and break it down. Rob, what's the big story you're looking into, or at least one of them going into this Capcom Cup?
Man, first and foremost, I got to make sure we shout out everyone who is currently qualified for Capcom Cup up to this point. Right now, we have Samurai, the West Coast very own, the Four Fields, Mr. Crimson, Just a Kid, Momoshi, Dookie, Brandon, Mena RD, Kawano, Travis Styles, Soul VNG, Jobby M, shout out South Africa, Ronaldinho, Phenom, Takamura, Angry Bird, NL, and as you just said, Brian, we have Murican. It makes me smile and just cheese ear to ear just hearing all of those names and knowing that they're going to be competing with each other. The first and maybe most important thing that we can focus on when it comes to this Capcom Cup is the fact that this is the first worldwide cup of all time ever. Like before we had Cup where, of course, it was open to everyone, but of course there's travel restrictions. It's difficult. Not everyone could get out to these tournaments. Now it's a guarantee that people from all around the world representing their region, their countries, their culture is all going to come to one place and fight it out to try to win Capcom Cup.
I'm really looking forward to these kind of regional matchups because, like you said, it's regions that didn't really have the same access or opportunity to these events, the CPT events we had in the past, which, you know, it's kind of like a chicken or egg, like, oh, were they not qualifying because they didn't have the events or the players aren't skilled enough? I think this is going to eliminate all those conversations. Every region sends their best representative, and there's going to be people from all over the world heavily invested in the outcomes of these matches.
Oh, man.
South Africa versus Brazil. You know what I mean? We have USA versus Norway. You know, it's going to be so much more involved. I feel like there's so much more pride on the line. It's like the World Cup, like the Olympics. It's going to be really, every match is going to be intense because no matter what, if it's a group stage, if it's an elimination match, they're carrying the backs of their entire country. Every single match. No lame duck matches this Capcom Cup.
We haven't had a Capcom Cup at all since 2019, man.
Oh, like the pressure is building.
They kept on being canceled. And you know, Brian, something that you brought up earlier on with us going to like the online era of Street Fighter V and I guess fighting games in general was that whole dogs on a leash thing, man. And I think that even though now we've had events, we've had Street Fighter leagues and, you know, UFA just passed, stuff like that. This is the big one, just like Evo. Like it's like Evo, but you know, but this is Capcom Cup, 250K on the line. This is where it all comes to a head. Like, when's the last time we had that type of energy? Like when we were sitting there watching Adon versus Kawano at Evo. The whole crowd into it. We damn near about to pass out. This is gonna be that right there. So I know that we gave a lot of love and we shouted out these regions that are underrepresented, but another big storyline is the big regions that are well known for Street Fighter that have had the limelight and duking it out for who's the best with Japan, with the North America, with Europe, because and I would even specifically shout out France, even though that's a part of Europe. They need their own specific.
I think they're marking their own kind of territory here, unique from Europe as a whole. France has been on fire lately.
Does USA still win Capcom Cup this year?
That's a big question, right? And, it depends on how we frame it too. You know, as a fellow member of the United States of America, we tend to take credit whenever we can. You know,
yes. Oh, 100%. I'm just talking about Cup. I'm not saying that me who's the best. I'm just saying, you know, there's an American flag get raised at the end.
We like to frame things uniquely, right? Because NA has taken the vast majority of Capcom Cups, right? We got Knuckle Doo, we got Mena RD, then we had an off year and Gachikun, did his thing for Japan. Then Idon brought it back to NA, okay. My personal pride is USA versus NA, but the cup has come home to NA 3 out of the 4 times. Will that continue in this season? So there's a bit of regional pride there, but I mean, I think really what it boils down to at the end of the day, it's the players, it's their individual legacy.
Man. Yes, it is.
We have not had a repeat Capcom Cup champion ever for Street Fighter V, and for Street Fighter 4 as well. If I'm looking back at it, there's been no repeats, right? This is not something that has been achieved. To me, this counts.
If Momoshi wins this Capcom Cup, it counts as a 2-time You know,
Exactly.
it doesn't matter if it's 2 different titles for me.
Yeah, 2014 Capcom Cup champion in Street Fighter 4, and then went on to win EVO 2015 right after. He didn't get the Capcom Cup in 2015, which would have cemented him like greatest run of Street Fighter history of all time, in my opinion. But he had one of the best, easy. But yeah, that would be a 2-time champ right there. That is great, but I think for Street Fighter 5 GOAT, I'm definitely looking at these players. Mena, Gachi-kun, NuckleDu, and Idom. And speaking of, NuckleDu and Idom are not in Capcom Cup as of right now. They're not in.
Oh, terrifying. Of course, we just saw Idom almost win EVO as well. He ended up finishing 2nd place, but that's another thing we got to bring up, Brian. No one has won EVO and Cup in Street Fighter 5. So
right.
even if you, outside of just 2 cups, the players that have a chance right now with that, and right now, Tokido has that chance. Kawano, who has been absolutely absurd with his play. Problem X, he didn't win the CPT event, but he is in the top 8 for that World Warrior program. He could qualify. I can't wait. I hope him and Endon Walker play in Grand Finals.
Oh, boy.
I can't call that. I can't call that one at all right there. And the last person who had a chance to win EVO and Capcom Cup this year, I guess he still technically has a chance, is Bonchan, one of the 4 Japanese fighting game gods. Surprisingly, he didn't even qualify for the top 8 of the World Warrior program over there. He entered every event and is only sitting in 26th place there. So he's gonna have to take his best shot at LCQ.
Yes, he is. He is registered for the LCQ, so that brings up a whole other can of worms here. You know, we're still looking for who's going to qualify from these regional finals, so we still have more than half the competitive field who has not qualified. We can make some predictions about who's in the top 8. Currently, most of the regions at this point are closed out. There's a few with a few more events, but we can kind of make some educated guesses about who's going to qualify. But for the rest of the world, there is still the LCQ, and the LCQ at Capcom Cup always delivers the hype. There's something about that coming in last second and just putting it all on the line and qualifying and potentially making the run of a lifetime to get in the Capcom Cup at the very last second by the skin of your teeth. I mean, the most legendary run I always got to bring up, Nemo at Capcom Cup 2017, the LCQ.
Didn't y'all play each other?
I was so close to beating him. I had a pretty good run that year.
I remember that. Yeah,
I got third. I got third, losing to Nemo that year. I was actually up 2-1 in a round. I was on match point against him, but he did his thing. And in fact, he went on from that to beat Punk round 1 of Capcom Cup on his
That's when they changed that rule.
On his most dominant year, and he got like third. I think he finished third in Capcom Cup 2017, starting from the LCQ. So these people in the LCQ, you think, oh, you know, it's a consistent players who qualified throughout the year when they had their shot. LCQ, they'll get in, but you know, they won't do any damage. No, they can do some damage. So
the winner of the LCQ will be one of the favorites in the tournament.
They're hot. They're hot. Whoever has to play the LCQ winner, it's always like, oh my god, like, you know,
and
they're just coming off
now.
Just such a high of a win.
The format back then, it was like, okay, you had all year, everyone could enter any tournament, and these people didn't qualify. So whereas now, let's say you live in Japan, man, like you just, there's only 2 spots available there. And if you didn't happen to qualify for one of those, but you still can be one of the top 10 players on planet Earth, but you didn't qualify over there, and now here you are in the LCQ. You know, like Daigo, for example.
Perspective, yeah, I was about to bring that up. For perspective, I just always have to glance at the rankings for the Japan World Warrior because it's so ridiculous. Daigo, like you mentioned, is 13th currently in the World Warrior. That could change. There's still one more event that they have. He could get those 50 points and jump up in the rankings, but it's so competitive. Fudo is 10th, right? These are people who have won majors, won Evos. Mago is 11th.
Yeah,
it's just ridiculous, crazy. Right? So any one of these players can come through with the LCQ and claim that final spot. So we know it's going to be a bloodbath, and it's going over 2 days. We're going to have these matches streamed, so we get to see the action at home. So you're not going to miss out on all the heartbreak and then the dreams being made. It's where the drama is, right? Like that's why it's so beautiful. There's so much drama in that LCQ, and I feel like that really encapsulates like what we love about fighting games and competition, all as the pre-show before the show.
Okay, look. So I want to make sure we bring up some like specific individual storylines.
Okay.
Phenom. If Phenom wins Cup, that's huge because I feel like as amazing as Phenom is, like we say, it seems like he drops a quiet 50 points per game or something like that. Like he's cooking, right. But maybe he doesn't get the full credit from the general public that he does, or his name doesn't come up as much as it should in certain conversations. That's huge. If Idom wins Cup, that means that he will have won Cup back to back. To me, to me, he will have entered a GOAT conversation.
Yes.
In general, a fighting game, he's entering a very winning Capcom Cup back-to-back is that big of a deal to me, especially after years past too. You are in a GOAT conversation.
They've had time to study the footage.
Punk is another one, man. Now, Punk is the current, him or Tokido is the current Street Fighter V GOAT.
And also, but the thing is, Punk's legacy is not cemented by having the big peak win. It's the fact that he's had so many huge wins on prestigious, huge international premier tournaments all over the world. You cannot dispute his legacy in that regard. But
he doesn't need Capcom Cup he doesn't need to win this to solidify his legacy.
Yeah, he's one of the best of all time in Street Fighter V. But I think that, like, if you're talking about GOAT status, I think he needs a run at Capcom Cup. I think it depends on who wins. If he doesn't win, it's going to depend on if it's like a newcomer getting first and him getting second. Because I think he needs something at this point in the later era of Street Fighter V to tip the scales. And people want to, we've given Punk a lot of respect over the course of the show and over the years of like go to Street Fighter V. I think at this point, people are prepared to take that title away in the end game here. I think people like Kawano, people like Idom.
Yeah.
You know, Phenom, there's a few other people, they're chomping at his heels right now. Like, you've done a lot over the years. No one can dispute that. Most winningest player of all time in Street Fighter V. However, the GOAT title, I think it's time to take the big one, right? Like,
yeah. Which would be that much more impressive if he wins. The fact that so many people are right there right now, you know, but like you said, that's the only thing you could possibly say about him. So him getting that win right there would be otherworldly.
I think it would be beautiful.
And you know he'd be up there crying and everything too.
Oh my God, it would be beautiful.
You know that would be super dope. And especially after just seeing the whole how he's clapping up for Ender Walker and all that. Oh, yeah. That's another one. Now that boy right now is on fire, Brian. If we get a 16-year-old Capcom Cup champion, that will be like the coolest story of all time.
We're speculating, but now we're speculating. So
we're really speculating that because he's not even qualified right now.
We're pivoting to the people who haven't even qualified through the World Warrior
events. What about Mena for
now
then? What about Mena then? Because he's qualified. What does a win for him mean?
I think Mena has, of all the previous Capcom Cup champions, I feel like to the public eye, Mena has the most to prove to the public. Not that I feel like he should, but I feel like his win was the most disputed because he was such a newcomer to the average viewer, the people who only tune in to the EVOs or a couple of premier grand finals top 8s. People said there's no way this birdie player from the Dominican Republic is going to beat this player. There's no way he's going to beat this player, right? As he kept going, every single match he said, Mena, there's no way he's going to beat X, Y, or Z. And he just kept beating them back to back to back and got the job done. And I feel like people still, to this day, don't quite respect him at that same degree just because of lack of exposure, I feel like. If he wins Capcom Cup or even just makes like a top 3 finish, I feel like that shuts up a lot of doubters, a lot of haters. You know what I mean? I feel like he has a lot to gain in terms of legacy from that. And obviously, we already said it. If anyone wins 2, that's it. There's no debate. But I think if he makes a really good run, he has a lot to gain to jump the most positions in terms of like ranking the best of all time for Street Fighter V.
He's a perfect scene ambassador. You see what he did for DR and everything. And the last person I got to bring up, I got no choice. I got to just fit this in there. My boy, Just a Kid. Anyone like Just a Kid, Ender Walker, any of these players, Jaw BM, any of them, who would not be catapulted to like a GOAT conversation, the momentum going into Street Fighter 6 would be insane. Like, think about the business side of this, Brian.
Definitely.
You win Capcom Cup, hypothetically the last Capcom Cup of Street Fighter 5. You are about to make so much money outside of just that $250K.
There's a lot of momentum going to the next generation of Street Fighter. It's definitely a big win. The thing about this Capcom Cup to me is because the players like have not interacted in many international level events, I feel like there's so much room for upset. Like, I don't feel comfortable besides a handful of players making a call that they'll go very far, right? I feel like the people like Idom, Kawano, and one we haven't talked about yet, Angry Bird, I feel like there's a Phenom. There's a few players who I feel comfortable calling they're going to go far. In between that, I feel like there's so much room for upset. I feel like another player that might cause a lot of upsets, Travis Styles. just Chad Balrog coming out here, just not caring, dash straightening away, just throwing some taps here and there. I can definitely see a person like Travis Styles just causing a few upsets, ruining a few weekends, and going pretty far in an event. Like, it's really hard to call who is going to actually take it. I think there's a lot of dark horses in this event, so I think that's going to make it more exciting to watch. You can pick your favorite, get some Bison Bucks out there.
One of the another dark horse, or a light horse, ivory horse. My boy Big Bri. I know that World Warrior final coming up, my boy.
We'll see. Ivory horse, that's a wild one.
Ivory horse is OD. Bro,
we'll
honestly,
see about that.
Anyone who qualifies from the Midwest World Warrior, I'm hyped. I ain't gonna lie. And Brian, if you end up getting in there, then I really do like your chances to
I appreciate that. But to me, with Capcom Cup, I'm hyped with whoever wins, honestly. I think if anyone who finds success in a moment where they haven't had it, or in an area where they haven't had it in the past, it gets me emotional every time. I cried my eyes out practically when Ida won Capcom Cup.
Yeah.
Like it was my own son, I was like, wow, he did it. There's something about the magnitude of it and just achieving a dream that feels impossible. At the end of the day, we're playing video games here, and to see the world getting behind something and being so passionate about it, and it matters because we care. Right? And we all care so much about it and put so much passion, put so much time. We're also driven to support this dream. To see anyone achieve that goal and to make it a reality is just always a very emotional moment for me. So I think regardless, I'm going to be tearing up whether I'm up there or someone else is up there. It's going to be a beautiful moment, not just for that player, but I think for the scene as a whole and for all fans of Street Fighter around the world.